And hello, welcome to London King's Cross. We're on the East Coast Main Line, and I've been meaning for quite a while to do a run from King's Cross to Leeds, actually. And I was kind of intending to do the 91, but then it occurred to me that I had a 90 scenario. So I thought, well, as we have it available as a scenario, I think this came with the merged route from King's Cross to Leeds, as I remember. And as we have the 90 coming out for Train Sim World pretty soon, I thought, well, let's give this a go. So first of all, let us get our train set up as normal. I hope I can remember everything, because this is Train Sim Classic and it's quite a while since I've played it. We don't have a working GSMR, I don't think, on this, unfortunately. Now we'll get some doors open. Now we have got green there, so we'll knock the DRA off, and we'll also get that on. And then the sort of the marker light stuff is down here. Parking brake's already off. I think everything else will be okay with. And what I'm also going to do, and this is cheating a little bit, but I'm going to press Control and E. So what that means is the DSD is disabled, and the only reason I'm doing that is because I didn't really fancy the idea of the DSD constantly going up whenever we show an outside view. And I think there is a way of making it visually so that it flashes up, but I thought let's make it just a bit easier, because I think with a YouTube video it's quite nice to be able to see the train going by at various points in the journey. So it's an unusual livery that we're in, by the way. This is the a Belgian Rail livery, and a lot of these were done because of Channel Tunnel freight traffic, as far as I'm aware. I don't know to what extent they were used. So this is 90028, and we have refurbishment, which I'm sure I've not pronounced very well. But it still looks very nice. We've got a Mark IV set behind us. We've got a GNER, a couple of GNER units over there as well. And we have over here a 365 waiting in the bay platform as well. I don't know whether it's got a head code on. Ah, that's Peterborough bound. I think we've got a 317 over there as well. We'll see plenty of 313s in our journey as well. So how are we going for time? Ah, we should be off actually. So we're all going to use the speed control. Now, I was talking to our resident ex-retired train driver who has driven these, Rachel, in the live stream on Sunday, and she was saying that generally West Coast Main Line drivers didn't actually have them on, but for the purpose of ease of driving this, I'm gonna actually use it, I think. So it's nice to be able to set it up at 15 and know that you're not in any great danger of breaking the speed limit as well. So by the time we rejoin the cab, we're going to be in Gasworks Tunnel already, I suspect. We've got a DVT on the back, so we'll have a look at the rest of the train a bit later on, but let's kind of go back to the cab. This is Gasworks Tunnel. So why are we driving a Class 90? That's probably the first thing to really say. Well, this is the 30th of May 2000 this scenario is set, so it's a Tuesday, I believe, and it's the GNER service from King's Cross to Leeds. Now the Class 91 fleet was undergoing overhaul at the time, and Class 90s from EWS were hired in to cover some Leeds services, so this being one of them. So we're going to be calling at Peterborough, Grantham, Newark, Doncaster, and Leeds. Now we are restricted to 110 mile an hour, of course, because we are in the class 90 rather than the 91. So I don't know about timetabling. I've no idea whether there was longer time allowance made for these services, or whether it was just the fact that, I don't know, was the 90 kind of acceleration wise superior to the 91? Not sure about that. Right, now we've got 45, so let's set our speed control up to that. So we're about to pass under the southeastern high-speed line, which of course takes you off on HS1 through to Faversham if you're doing a javelin service, or to places like Dover, and of course Channel Tunnel traffic as well. I mean, we are inevitably, we've got a little bit of a mixture in terms of eras. So, you know, obviously the signage, when we get to Peterborough you'll see LNER signage and all that sort of thing, but it's a nice little compromise. So we're going to be very quickly up to 65 and then 80 not too far away as well. We kind of got Gasworks Tunnel and Belle-Isle and Copenhagen Tunnel's the second one, of course, and then we'll pass the Arsenal's football ground, the Emirates Stadium, in a second before getting to Finsbury Park. Try and make sure we get a reasonable view here. As we go past the ground. Actually, not a very good angle. There we go, that's a bit better. So the only thing about having Arsenal's ground in there is a custom model of it, which is, you know, very nice to see. But there's no sort of labelling. Obviously, they didn't get the licence to put the Arsenal logo in and stuff. This is Finsbury Park. I think our first sighting there of a 313 there in the platforms, and a 365 coming in. So I must admit, my preference has always been the West Coast main line rather than the East Coast. It's a quite a rare foray, and a long time since I've actually driven on the East Coast main line at all. Now, I always forget my stations along here. I had to kind of write them down to remind myself. So it's sort of after Finsbury Park, it's Haringey, and then you get Hornsey and Hornsey Depot, which I think is home to the EMUs. We've got a 313, which has just come from Moorgate. We are up to 95 now. So it's Alexandra Palace, and then that's the that's Bounds Green Depot on the right. I think we have markers for the neutral sections, but I don't think they work. So that's the Hertford Loop going up there as well. Of course, that goes to places like Hertford North, and can actually be a diversionary route through to Stevenage as well. I think some of the stopping services do go through to Stevenage, but the majority would go through to Hertford North. And now for the first time we've got 100 as our speed limit. We're now New Southgate. I hope I'm getting the stations right. I know Scooby in particular will very much correct me if I'm wrong about any of these. Sometimes it's easy to get out of sequence, and particularly when you've forgotten some of the stations along the way. I love the GNER livery, I have to say. The only one I shall know for definite when we're going through is Hadley Wood, because it's kind of sandwiched in between the two tunnels, so it's very, very easy to identify. So now we've got, well, it says 115 mile an hour the speed limit, but of course we can only go up to 110 in this 90. So this should be got Oakley Park and then New Barnet, and then it's Hadley Wood. Yeah, so this must be New Barnet. I always felt that Dovetail Games, when they built the East Coast Main Line South, they put a lot of detail in. It felt really, really detailed on the southern section of the East Coast Main Line, and it was a lot of custom buildings that they use as well. I mean, you look at that section, particularly out of King's Cross going up towards Finsbury Park, and there's a lot of custom builds, and they didn't quite match up to that over the years in other routes. This is Hadley Wood. I remember having a book, a railway book in the 70s. I didn't really know where it was, but I remember it captioning the fact that it was Hadley Wood. I didn't know where that was at the time. I was only probably about 5 or 6 or something looking at the book, but I remember it being in the kind of the early morning sunlight, and it captured it really nicely. I was impressed by the photo even then. So in case you're wondering, and I'm sure a lot of you already know that there is this is, by the way, this is Potter's Bar coming up. I'm sure a lot of you will know of the Alan Thompson simulation merged route, which kind of takes in King's Cross to Leeds and to York, and I think it's got the triangle as well, so you can go from Leeds to York as well, you know, sort of the direct routes like the Transpennine services would take. So it does need East Coast Main Line South, obviously the original Dovetail Games routes from King's Cross to Peterborough. Creative Rails routes, which covered York to Peterborough, and I think that's still available on Steam. And I think you have to download Leeds lines as well, but I think you need to be a Alan Thompson Simulation subscriber to access this merged route. I'm trying to remember as well with Leeds Station, and again you can look up all these requirements at leisure if you. You don't have to be a subscriber initially for Alan Thompson. You can look at you can actually look at the requirements before making your mind up if you haven't got it. But I think you do need. I think this is a free route, the Harrogate Loop, because I think I'm right in saying, I could be wrong on this, but there is obviously the Leeds station model that was made with the Huddersfield line, but there was also a Harrogate Loop version of Leeds station, but you'll have to check for certain which one it uses. But I think the Harrogate Loop, the Harrogate line is, I think that's free, and that's available on Train Sim Community. Again, there will be requirements for that, but that's quite a nice little route in its own right, and that includes that's another version of the route from York to Leeds as well. But I think it's magnificent. I mean, it's been out for a few years now, but just to be able to load up one scenario like this and to be able to do a full length journey. This is Hatfield, isn't it, with the staggered platforms? But it's just magnificent to be able to load up a full journey like this, not have to bother about various parts of the scenarios and do it all in one go. And if sort of the length of this journey is a bit too long for you to do in one go, there's nothing stopping you from actually just saving it and going back. Although I do have to say sometimes, as far as I recall, Train Sim Classic is a bit dodgy with loading up something that's been saved. I mean, I really hope that we can get the merge. I think there's been a start at doing it on. I need to do that. I meant to turn my power off there for the neutral section. Oh well, we're breaking all the rules, it has to be said. But actually, if I've just put the power off and then back on again. This is Welwyn Garden City. It passed under the flyover, so those EMU lines, and then there's a yard a little bit further on where they store some of the EMUs, but the flyover takes the lines over to the other side. Again, it's a quick way of getting in and out of the station without holding up the regular traffic. Then you've got the amazing Welwyn Viaduct coming up, so the double track section, and then we've got Welwyn North Station just before it. I mean, this is an iconic site in its own right. This has always been a bit of a bottleneck in terms of East Coast Main Line traffic as well over the years, because you have this double track section over the flyover through the tunnels, and then it broadens out once again to 4 tracks beyond the 2 tunnels. As I say, very much had this in mind really with watching the preview streams of the TSW Class 90 coming out. I know that's basically freight orientated, although hopefully, fingers crossed, and I kind of think it's probably inevitable, there will be a passenger version of it and the DVT eventually with a suitable route to go with it, I would have thought. But obviously that's pure guesswork on my part. There's no hard facts going into that. I'm just kind of using logic. I'm not always correct with these assumptions though. But it does look really good. I was pleased the fact that they have they've made their own recordings, that it looks pretty detailed, and there's a nice variety of liveries as well, and it's another freight loco to go alongside the 66, so that will please an awful lot of people. So if I've got my timing right on this, and this is as scheduled, then you should be, if you're watching this for the first time, then you'll be watching this in between the Medway Valley Line preview from the Wednesday, and then the release of Medway Valley on the Thursday, and then the Class 90 routes coming out, the Class 90 for TSW6 is coming out on the Monday. We're coming towards Stevenage now, so the line coming in from the left is the Hertford Loop. So having sort of run round all the way from just after Alexandra Palace. And of course a lot of what are now LNER services would stop at Stevenage, but this is one that doesn't. Actually, I have mentioned the states we're stopping at. I haven't had Peterborough, Grantham, Newark Northgate, Doncaster and Leeds. Where's the train? Oh, it's there. I forgot that I was still using that distant view there, wasn't I? I was doing that because of looking at Welling Viaduct. So lovely livery this, I have to say. Never seen some of these more unusual liveries on the 90 in real life. Oh, we saw a HST going past us as well. And also, haven't had a chance to show the DVT either. They are 82203 on the rear of our service. It's still, I mean, it's quite an old pack now. I shudder to think when this came out from Armstrong Powerhouse. It's a good few years ago now. I think it nearly blew up the website when it was first released. It was so popular, and it was great to get the added detail that Armstrong Powerhouse put into their products, and I think we were all delighted. I think despite the fact that it's pretty old now, then I think it still stands the test of time excellently. it's all fingers crossed as well, because you never know with all the various versions of the game, and I know they did a lot of work on trying to optimise Train Sim Classic a year or two back, but it's just hoping that we don't dump before we get to Leeds. This is hitching, isn't it? So you've got the Cambridge line going off to the right, but of course nowadays, I mean, it used to be the case that all trains had to go right across and foul the up services on the East Coast Main Line to gain access to the Cambridge line. Well, nowadays, of course, there is the flyover, and that's it on the left-hand side. I couldn't tell you actually, I didn't look it up, but not sure exactly when that came in, so I don't know whether that's prototypical for the era that we're running this service on. But sometimes you do have to compromise a little bit with these things. It's impossible to find the perfect blend between the various eras. That's the angle I like. I honestly wish that we had a proper way of doing that on Train Sim World. I know you can use the 8 button, I know you can fly out if you're quick enough and get your timing right, you can watch things coming past you, but it'd be great if you got a version of the number 4 button that you have on Train Sim Classic and watch particularly that flyby, because it's a great thing to witness. I can't remember who actually did this merged route, and I know a lot of work went into it. It wasn't just quite joining the routes together, because they kind of upgraded the scenery in places. They put better OHLE in as well, so it's quite a work of art in its own right. And I'm quite certain that at some point, I know we don't have King's Cross to Peterborough in Train Sim World, but I'm sure it'll come out at some point, and it'd be even better if they could include the bit out of Moorgate as well. And of course we do have that in Train Sim Classic, but it'd be lovely to have that in Train Sim World. Now, I always feel a tinge of nostalgia driving on the East Coast Main Line, because although I haven't done it that many times in real life, and my main route to get to London from where I live is inevitably going to be London Euston, it is kind of a station, and the East Coast Main Line is one that I've visited on train simulators very much over the years, and even going back into the 90s with something called Cab View Driver, which was released by a chap called Ashley Greenup. I don't know if he's still around nowadays, but he produced a game where it was quite a novel idea, really. I mean, it was using an old like rail scene videos. I think they were called rail scene, but they were videos, cab views of the real journeys, and it was slightly ahead of its time, because the problem was it was asking quite a lot of computers to run long videos like that at that time. And of course the problem was sometimes you'd be stopping at stations in the route, and the actual video was actually going through the lines, avoiding the platform, so you had to pretend a little bit, and it was a bit jerky as well in places, but it was quite a revolutionary idea. And I remember myself and my brother having tons of fun when it first came out, and when it came in the post, I think on a CD-ROM, I think it was. I remember me and my brother, I think, spending virtually the whole weekend just pottering up the East Coast main line. That was King's Cross to Doncaster. And then when Train Simulator came out, Microsoft Train Simulator, first of all, I can remember a route called Mid-East Plus, which again, it was a CD I can remember sending off off from UK Train Sim, and that had the line from, it was a freeware route, but it was done from King's Cross to Retford, I think, at the time, but there was loads of scenarios. I seem to remember the line to Lincoln was included as well, so I can remember coming back from a Christmas party one year and spending quite a bit of a weekend playing on that. And then a few years later, a firm called European Barn, who you might remember producing, first of all, the London Victoria to Brighton route for Microsoft Train Simulator, and it was kind of breaking the mould with custom model buildings. This is Huntingdon, I think. I'm right in saying that. Where are we in terms of... Imagine no, I don't think it will be Huntingdon, actually, not this far out to Peterborough. What's after Hitchin? So after Hitchin, you got Olsey, Biggleswade, Sandy, St Neots, and then Huntingdon. So yeah, no, we've not got that far yet. But the European Barn one was proper custom model builds of King's Cross and Peterborough and the stations, and it kind of felt a little bit more advanced. And we had the 91, and I think it was a was it? I'm trying to remember what the MU was that they built. I think it was the 317 from memory. Yeah, I've got to say, I mean, they did a good job with the sounds anyway. Armstrong Powerhouse and Wagons, I think, with this Class 90, but also generally the sound pack for the Mark IV and the DVT was pretty good. I mean, you don't get the most amazing of scenery. It's pretty flat between King's Cross and, well, a lot of the east of England, really, even through to Leeds, but it's still interesting. It's a famous old piece of railway as well. You know, you bear in mind it's always been a fast running racetrack. You think you go back to the Sir Nigel Gresley days and the Flying Scotsman then the A4 Mallards, and then into the diesel era we had the Deltics, and then the high-speed trains, then the Class 91s, and of course nowadays it's pretty much universally the Azumas now. And in TSW terms, of course, we do have the section between Peterborough and Doncaster, but I don't think that's the most exciting section personally. I think without having this bit between King's Cross and Peterborough, it's definitely missing something. Now, I'm pretty sure that this pack came with this scenario, so I can't remember 100% who actually built it. Yes, we've got the speed limit dropping down to 120, but of course no worry for us. I would be interested to know if anybody knows in the comments about the timetabling. Did they use the existing 91 timetabling for these runs, or was it adjusted in some way? If you happen to know, then by all means let me know, either if you're watching this in the premiere of it, or in the comments as well. If you're watching afterwards, I'd be interested to know. And any thoughts about the service in general when they were operated by Class 90s, because it's kind of one of those things I didn't know so much about at the time, but I know now. And whilst we're on about chat and comments and all that sort of stuff, but thank you very much for all the huge support for the channel, really appreciated as ever. And if you haven't done so before, then you could like and subscribe. I'd be really appreciated. Guarantee you before the end of the video, by the time we get to Leeds, that at some point I'll press the F1 button by mistake, not the F3. I don't know, I'm not 100% sure about the horn either. I mean, I think that sounds to me like the 91 horn. I don't know whether we definitely got the unique horn in for the 90, or were they different? I'm not totally sure on that. I mean, in terms of preferences, it remains the case that, you know, I'm still massively much more sort of leading towards Trade Sim World, and you know, obviously the graphics are better. I think that goes without saying. You know, the complete timetable, but I do still have a little recap with Trade Sim Classic occasionally, because I think it's still nice to see stuff coming out for it, and you're still able to do things on Trade Sim Classic, visit places that you can't yet do on Trade Sim World. So I'm not going to give up on it, and I'm interested to note as well Armstrong Powerhouse are doing a enhancement pack to the Voyager. Now I know Alan Thompson Simulation and Imbu, I think it is, are doing a 220 at some point, but no idea when that's going to be. I mean, it might be weeks, months, or it might be a long time away. Yeah, no, this is Huntingdon, isn't it? There you go. You see, I thought I'd turn the wipers off, but clearly not properly yet. There we go. I think we've done both sides now. So the GSMR doesn't work on here, unfortunately. Should put the ETS on. And the other thing is, I mean, those ammeters down there showing the motors. Again, it's a lot less relevant with the Class 90 than it is with the 86 and 87. So no thyristor control. Sorry, it is thyristor control, and no notching up like you had to do with the older units. So it's quite nice. You can kind of go off, put it into power, and you can speed away to your heart's content. If you haven't watched us before, by the way, on usually the live streams, I'll try and do a live stream on the night of a preview, the night of a release of a new piece of DLC. So I'm hoping to do the TSW 6 Class 91 on the Monday, as this is premiering. So if you're watching this weeks later, then don't worry about that, but the video should be up there on the live tab. But generally the live streams are on Sunday at 5 o'clock. We do a 4-hour live stream, and we have a bit of fun, and we have been doing a competition as well. So if you wonder what that's about, well, it's just a question of, if you own the route, and I'll post what's kind of coming up on the Sunday, usually in the Sunday morning, to give you an idea, then by all means you take part. You can do the same run, and I'll put you up on the scoreboard at the end. I mean, at the moment there's plenty of room for it, but I haven't quite got to the point where if we have loads and loads of scores, it might be only the upper echelons of the leaderboard that actually get posted. But we'll see how that goes over time. But it's a great bit of fun, and it's only a bit of fun, but it helps to, in theory at least, improve your driving skills, and kind of gives a little bit of an interest to the evening as well. Whilst we're on the subject of Train Sim World, it's quite an exciting time. Really enjoyed the New York Stamford route coming out. I'm not normally a massive fan of non-British routes, and I've not really got my head properly around German signalling. I keep saying I'm going to, but one of these days I'll figure it out completely. But I'm enjoying this New York to Stamford route, because it's really busy. It offers a lot of variety and kind of fast and slow services, and it feels a bit like a little bit of a network as well, with having both Grand Central and New York Penn as well to operate to and from. And there's some interesting backdrops. That Hellgate Bridge, is it? Hellgate Bridge, I should say. And you can see the bits of New York, the big buildings in the background. So really, really nice. And I think I find the American signalling relatively logical and straightforward. And then also Medway Valley. And now I was absolutely sceptical when it was first announced. I thought, pretty short routes, a rehashed Class 375 to go with it. I'm not particularly enthusiastic about this, but I have to say it's an absolutely stunning portrayal of the routes. I mean, they say that Kent is the Garden of England, but the Firefly team have done an amazing job capturing the beauty and the detail as well, from the Oast buildings, the stations, the rivers, the River Medway and everything. And, you know, silly little things like moving animated sheep and moving cows. So I'm sold, totally and utterly sold on it. And although it's no big thing really, but it is nice to see a working GSMR in the game for the first time. It's a slight gimmick, I mean, but it is something that, again, it's just kind of adding an extra bit of realism, something that as a real driver you would do. And it's not particularly complicated. You've just got to put your head code in for the service and what the signal number is in front of you. So that's as far as it goes. And I haven't actually, the one thing I'm not sure about, and I might be sure by the time you're watching this video, because I should have done my first video on it, but I'm recording this kind of the other way around. But I'm kind of thinking, I'm slightly getting over the speed limit there. It's hardly worth adjusting it down to 100 actually, is it? Because we've got the speed limit going back up again in a second. But I'd kind of quite like to see the in-cab announcements for some of the other EMUs that's available, like the 465 as well. That would go in quite nicely, but I don't know how easy that would be to implement. Really nice example of the sounds of the whole set there. You feel as though you've got really good running sounds. So we aren't too far away from Peterborough. And this is the Yaxley area, if I remember rightly, but we must keep an eye out on these signals for the approach. Double yellow there. I've got a suspicion it's probably approach controlled, the approach for 40, but we must get some decent brakes on. It is single yellow as well. We'll probably ease things off a little bit now. At some point, I think there is a connection of the line that joins up with the Nene Valley Railway as well. We've got the line to March and Ely that comes in as well, and Cambridge. And in fact, there is a Alan Thompson route that actually does that. So you can actually drive via the East Coast Main Line. You can take in, you can start from King's Cross and go to Cambridge and then on to Peterborough in one direct run. And again, there will be diversionary services that that do that. Right, so there we go. We've got the feather and the double yellow. I did install some sort of track joint patch as well. I seem to remember, because there used to be a thing where, and I don't know whether Armstrong Powerhouse fixed it, but it used to be that after a few miles of running this, the track joint sounds would eventually totally and utterly disappear on you. Feels though there should have been a... No, perhaps the ramp there for AWS was for the opposite direction, was it? You get these situations where they are dual running lines. So how are we doing for time? Yeah, I think we're going to be a tad late. Perhaps I'm being a bit too cautious here. Annoying thing is, if you don't arrive in it and stop at all these stations on time, then you end up with a situation where you don't actually get a tick at the end. So you look back in a couple of years' time, you can't remember whether you've done the scenario or not. Yeah, I think this is the line from March and Ely that we're crossing over now, and over the I presume that's the River Nene anyway. So the famous bridge for the approach to Peterborough as well. So I think we do have LNER branding at the station, but as I say, inevitably with these things you have a little bit of a compromise in terms of the era. So we're coming into the platform now. I'm trying to remember here, because I'm being conscious of the fact that because of the TPWS, then I want to make sure that we're not going too fast for the upcoming red signal. So I think we have to be going below 15. I remember those green colours. That was central, wasn't it? So I presume we're waiting for that train to clear before we actually get the OK. Yeah, that should be okay, I think, there. Knock ourselves into neutral for the moment. Again, apologies for my squeaking chair. Must get the WD-40 out at some point. So this is Peterborough platform 4. That's a 156. Yeah, so still central trains, very much in regional railways livery though. There's kind of a little bit of a improvisation in terms of some of the early liveries. They just kind of put a little bit of a sticker on to indicate what the new TOC was supposed to be. Right, okay. Oh, we've been given the nod. So where is our signal actually? Yeah, so I've just pressed authority to approve. I did download the enhancement pack. Ah, we got those two markers there. That tells us that we're okay. Fair enough. Oh yeah, I knew I would do that. I always do that without doubt. I forget to put myself into forward. So I have remembered to set our way ahead to 25. I feel as though those two little markers there should be pointing the other way though, and surely we should have the arrow over the top. So fingers crossed. But I did install the ATS signalling patch that should go in line with this route, but you never fully guarantee with these things, and who knows, I might not have the very latest AP patch for that as well, so it's kind of one on top of the other, I guess, sometimes. So of course this section we can do in Train Sim World, but not obviously with the Class 90 just yet. Well, not for this week anyway, but obviously very soon that will be possible, although what's stopping us doing a full passenger run for the time being will be a real DVT. You could stick a HST power car on the back, I reckon. So Grantham is our next stop. But yeah, getting back to Train Sim World 6, it's been quite an exciting time and quite a chaotic time really. But we had the remasters, which I think were February. That was quite exciting. But it's kind of this feeling now of new stuff that was announced at Christmas being released. So the whole sequence of stuff now with Medway Valley with the Class 90 and then that New York Stamford route. We've still got Crew Preston coming out as well, and hopefully the preview for that's not going to be too far off. Really looking forward to that, I have to say, because it is my era, of course, the British Rail Blue era. Flashing greens now. Of course, that indicates I don't know 100% if that's still a thing, but they were brought in because the idea being, of course, the 91s, although they only ran at 125 mile an hour in reality, they were built, and of course it was called Intercity 225, and that was a play on sort of kilometres per hour, because that was 140 miles an hour is 225 kilometres per hour. And the idea of the flashing greens was to mean that it was like an extra signal effectively. So it was like for braking purposes. trying to get what that's the view I want. A lot of work though from the team has gone into upgrading all this OHLE to make it look really good. I mean, the creative rail route was all right, but it's there's definitely been an added element of detail. A lot of work's gone in, and you can't always appreciate it. I mean, I know some of the trees and so on is all 2D, but in terms of making this frame rate friendly, then that's never a bad thing. Now, we are, I think, not too far away, and maybe I'm a bit early at this stage, but it's going to be particularly as the line gets a bit straighter. We've got a branch line going off there, but as we start to straighten up and we get towards Stoke Tunnel, then we've got Stoke Bank, and that is one of the most famous stretches of railway in railway history, because of course that is where Mallard broke the world steam record. So the point being that and there is probably a marker, I don't know 100% if it's on the Train Sim Classic one, I think it's on the Train Sim World routes. But in 1938, of course, Mallard was just one of the A4s that was built by Sir Nigel Gresley, and they were in a big battle, the old LNER, the old London North Eastern Railway, with the London Midland and Scottish, or LMS, on the West Coast Main Line. But they always had an advantage on the East Coast Main Line of having a straighter, faster track, and you really struggle to find a straight bit on the West Coast Main Line that can compete. So we are kind of on pretty much flat at the moment, so this is obviously before we descend down Stoke Bank, so we're a little bit off yet, but it's kind of worth talking about it. So on the 3rd of July 1938, Nigel Gresley, the chief engineer, authorised the running of Mallard to try and beat the steam record. And it's actually, I only actually realised this when I was rechecking the facts. I'd kind of forgotten, because I'd always thought in my mind it was a northbound run, but in reality it was actually going the other way from Grantham. It's at a place called Little Bytham that it was achieved, and the world steam record, which stands to this day, was achieved in 1938, and Mallard achieved 126 miles an hour. That was by driver Joe Duddington and fireman Thomas. I was going to say I wrote down his surname, but I can't fully read. I didn't finish it off. You'll have to look that bit up for yourself. And interestingly, in more modern times, with the 91 when they came out, then they did a similar thing, and at the same stretch on Stoke Bank they achieved 161.7 miles per hour in 1989. So we're still not quite there yet, because it's before Grantham and it's before Stoke Tunnel. So we should have a fairly steep uphill section. You have the, I think it's called the Essendon Curves, which might be it, possibly. But you'll kind of notice a long straight section before before Stoke Tunnel. And we also mustn't forget as well that we are actually stopping at Grantham as well, so we mustn't get too carried away. So if anybody could pinpoint the exact place pretty much where it is, because I'm always slightly amiss on stuff like this. I mean, it's such an important piece of location, really. I must visit Little Bytham at some point. And it's you know, it's one of those places that you feel it's just steeped in railway history, and that day will never ever be forgotten. I think there might even have been a station there at the time, long since closed, of course. Yeah, I think given that we're still 14 miles away from Grantham, I think that I was a bit too premature. Yeah, still with the flashing greens. Again, if you know whether that's a thing in the railway nowadays, still there, because it was a throwback to when the 91s were introduced. But as far as I know, other than in test running, I don't think they were ever allowed or authorised to do 140 in passenger service. Now that's an angle. And I do have the the latest, there's a couple of versions of the kind of the weather pack from ATS as well, so I do have that installed, and I finally got round at Christmas, I think it was, to buying the cloud pack. I couldn't bring myself ever to pay full price on that, but I kind of thought, well, it was on a pretty cheap price, so I thought let's see if it does make a difference. It's hard to tinker around as well to get the exact settings that you like as well, and there is an argument for saying that I've got it a bit too bright looking, but I can remember doing some videos before where I thought, well, it's supposed to be daytime and it looks really dark, so I might have overcompensated it a little bit, but it's nice for it to be looking nice and clear, I think. I'll say one thing, you can make the signals out a lot clearer in this game than you can with some of those LED signals on Train Sim World. I think it did, I think the record-breaking run with Mallard did actually do the train a bit of damage, actually. Needed kind of, they overdid it a little bit. But very exuberant times and very interesting, exciting times. And the stories on the West Coast Main Line side as well, because I think the only straighty section is pretty much between Madeley and Crewe, which isn't really long enough, and they had a couple of runs. I think on one famous occasion they were kind of hurtling into Crewe, still going rather too fast for the complicated track work coming into Crewe Station, so I think it kind of on one occasion threw all the cutlery around in the buffet car. It's Stanier, wasn't it, on the chief engineer on the West Coast mainland, on the London Midland Scottish LMS, and obviously Sir Nigel Gresley, of which there is a statue of outside King's Cross Station on the East Coast main line. But again, legendary names. I mean, we talk about Brunel, but I think Nigel Gresley is pretty much up there as well. Yes, if anybody can pinpoint a little bit and tell me where exactly the location on the video for Mallard's thing at Little Bython, then let me know. I'd be really interested to hear that. I think that was Stoke Tunnel anyway, if I've got me bearings reasonably right on this. Of course, now we're kind of coming down the other side now. There aren't quite so many principal places on the East Coast Main Line as on the West Coast Main Line. It's pretty rural around this part of the East England as well. So of course, although some of the 91s were undergoing maintenance at this time, then it was obviously only some of them, and the 90s were only used for some of these Leeds services. I mean, if we are on the timings for the 91s, then maybe that's why we're late. But I mean, just checking now, it does give us a cross for Peterborough. It's not happy that we didn't stop there on time. Start getting some brakes on, I think. Oh, I didn't mean to press emergency. Oh, that's annoying. That means we're gonna... Yeah, it's taking us straight to Newark. So, sadly, the flawless run so far. I meant to go to step 6, but not go beyond. But sadly, I can't do anything about that. We will come for a halt. Never mind. What would be nice now is if we could stop virtually at the end of the platform, and that would mean we'd kind of perfect timing. But somehow, I don't think I'm going to be quite that lucky. We're going to stop just before, aren't we? Never mind. We were doing so well until then. There had to be a flaw somewhere, didn't there? Yeah, I'd forgotten how easy it was to accidentally go into to emergency, but never mind. certainly not starting it from scratch again. So I think we've got a 91 coming in, and judging by the slowish speed that's coming in, I think that is stopping here, with obviously with DVT leading as well, driver van trailer. See, that's what you should do. Get to 6, but full service, but don't go beyond that. Of course, very distinctive sound, the 91s. Again, you could close your eyes and you know that that's a 91 in attendance. So here we are at Grantham station. Is that a few seagulls maybe? Right, so we've got the go ahead here, and we are straight up to 100 actually. Apply again full power. See the DVT there. I mean, again, there are obviously scenarios where you lead with the DVT, but I can't quite. I just feel as though that's not quite so exciting driving the DVT from the very start. Somehow it's kind of more exciting leading with the electric loco. So Newark Northgate's a little bit closer to now, and the stopping pattern is going to get a little bit more straightforward. We're not stopping at trying to think Retford, are we? But other than that, it's kind of Newark Northgate, then Doncaster, and of course at Newark Northgate you also have the connection there for the Lincoln services, and of course Newark Castle is on the Nottingham to Lincoln line. That's another route that's Trainsim Classic on the Just Trains Middle and Main Line extension. That's one I don't have actually, the extension to Lincoln, although it looks pretty nice. Yeah, I've got to say, with the new, with that AP cloud pack and everything else in the backdrop, it looks does look pretty decent. Yeah, perhaps I should have started braking a bit earlier. Kind of forgotten. I don't think the brakes are the best in the world, are they, on this Class 90? But we'll try and get it a bit more accurate and better. We'll try not go into emergency brake mode anyway for our stop at So again, we've got a bit of a double track section here. For some reason I've taken that. Oh yes, I took the power off for the neutral section. I never reapplied it again. We'll be here all day if we don't get up to full speed. So I think it kind of belongs in the category, this part of East England, as sort of, it's like sort of little bit rolling hills, relatively flat, not huge hills, so you know, pretty in its own right, without you know, sort of being absolutely stunningly beautiful, like, I don't know, being in the Lake District or one of the national parks where it can be really, really rugged. So many level crossings, aren't there, in the East Coast Main Line? I don't know whether there's still as many in real life now. Of course, when you get towards Doncaster, you're pretty much into what used to be kind of coal territory, and you know, there's the big collieries in and around South Yorkshire, but of course not the case nowadays. I think there's a big kind of old freight yard that used to exist south of Doncaster, but a lot of it's kind of grassed over nowadays. So I'm looking forward to giving the Class 90 a run out on Train Sim World 6. As I say, very much if you're watching this in the premiere, but the live stream for that will be on the Monday. We'll have our usual live stream on the Sunday, but then live stream the Class 90 on the Monday night. And hopefully I'll give it a run on the just one of the conventional West Coast Main Line South Freightliner services, and then I might just pop it in as free roam on the North London line, because it always fascinates me that that's such a busy little freight corridor, trying to interweave yourself in between the 378 workings. See how that goes up. But I think probably, I don't know, an hour and a half, something like that, probably. See how far we get with that. I think the Sunday, destined to be quite a heavy focus on the Medway Valley as well. Coming up, because I've gone from being thinking not sure whether I'm that bothered about this to thinking, wow, what incredible detail that I shouldn't be surprised really. The Firefly team that have created it, with the likes of Forks, what is it, Jet Wash, Bal, I think, right in saying, but they were the people who came up with the enhancement packs for the routes when they first came out. Of course, Forks was one of the first of the timetable makers. So I think it's no surprise that they produce something of stunning. And maybe that's going to be their thing. Perhaps they're going to go for slightly shorter routes, but it's kind of like short but very, very, very detailed. I mean, as ever, the longer you go, inevitably you're going to start to compromise slightly on detail. I think that's probably the biggest hurdle in terms of producing long routes for Train Sim World 6. It's not just, or any version of Train Sim World, but it's not just whether the computers can cope with them or the consoles, but although that must be a factor as well. I think when we get to about 1.5 miles to Newark, we'll start putting some brakes on. So watch what you're doing this time. This is Newark Northgate. As I say, Newark Castle is the one that's on the Nottingham to Lincoln line. A lot of traffic on this scenario. I have to say it's a pretty good one. Should be aiming to hit the platforms. Yeah, I think we're about right actually. I'm going to say 30-ish. Yeah, we're going to be about right this time. Don't mind overrunning slightly because it's only the loco that's actually overhanging the platform. Still love that livery. Yeah, of course they aren't dynamic displays like you get. Excuse me. Dynamic displays like you get in Train Sim World. Yeah, I'm just checking the whole of the trains in the platform. Yeah, of course it is. That's fine. Getting back in the cab because the one thing I don't want to miss is we have a unique piece of railway in the UK coming up, and there's nothing quite compares with this, and that is a flat crossing. And this is the Nottingham to Lincoln line. I mean, there is a spur of it off from Newark Northgate, but basically the Nottingham to Lincoln trains go straight across our path, which is there's nowhere else in the UK that does this. And there it is. And we are crossing 100% sure if it's canal or river. So again, we've got the section then which will go pretty quickly now for the bit between Newark and Doncaster. Again, no stations on this particular section, and then after that it is the station. Now obviously there is a stopping service as well between Doncaster and Leeds. Pretty quickly building up speed again after our Newark stop. So again, I presume we've still got another cross. We were slightly late into Newark, but of course that was caused by not being on time for the Peterborough one. So I certainly saw the advance warning of the neutral section there. I don't know if that's consistent throughout the route. I'll try and I've been reasonably, when I've seen them, I've tried to knock the power off. Of course, it's not really a done thing to have power on going through the neutral sections. There it is. You can see that's the neutral section marker, and those are the areas. I love when you have it in the game and you can actually hear the motors going off and then coming back on again. I think that's really that's quite exciting. Yeah, so I hope you're as excited as me about the releases that are coming out, and I don't know whether you yourself, whoever's, if you're watching this, whether you're more of a TSW6, but for me it just has to be because that kind of advanced graphical scenery that you have, and you know, sometimes you can almost feel as though you're actually there in real life. It's almost photographic realistic at times, whereas this feels really good. Really enjoy driving it still, but there is still that kind of feeling slightly more like a game. And of course it's a very old game now. I think Train Sim Classic, which was first released as Rail Simulator, then Rail Works, I think it came out in it was 2007, so that's 19 years ago. So there will be some of you watching this who weren't even born, let alone when Microsoft Train Simulator came out, which was year 2000, I think. So you know, you're talking about 26 years ago, which is astonishing. I mean, round about that time and a bit before, I mean, I was kind of thinking, well, I would love there to be a train simulator brought out, but I just wasn't sure whether there was going to be, you know, it felt this is such a niche thing, such a niche interest, and is anybody going to be really bothered about it? Perhaps I'm one of the handful of people who would like to see such a thing. And then clearly Microsoft obviously felt there was a bit of a market for it. And then when it was released, I don't think it was a bestseller for ever and a day, but certainly in the opening couple of weeks of it coming out, I think it was the #1 game for a little while anyway. There was all sorts of talk afterwards. They did announce Microsoft Train Simulator 2, but it never came into being. And then I think Kuju, who brought out the original Microsoft Train Simulator, were ultimately the people who brought out what is now Train Sim Classic. And I think they didn't really advance it though. They didn't bring anything else other than the sort of originally you had the Paddington to Oxford and routes that was released originally, but I think Dovetail Games then, they weren't called Dovetail Games I don't think initially, but what became Dovetail Games kind of bought the rights and then started expanding it. There were things like West Coast Main Line North from Glasgow through to Preston. That was one of the early routes. What was the name of the man who developed that? Was it Keith Harris? Not Keith Harris. Oh crumbs, I can't remember now. But he developed the route, but then I think he kind of realised it needed custom catenary, it needed custom scenery in and around Glasgow, so he got them on board, and it was very popular. The one great thing about driving this actually is there aren't that many reductions in the speed limits, which kind of re-emphasises the fact that the West Coast Main Line is a pretty fast line. I mean, we aren't going up to York, but I mean the section between I think I'm right in saying it's the bit between Doncaster going towards York, the Selby avoiding line, and I think it was built because the National Coal Board agreed to do it. They wanted to build a big super pit in the area, and I think British Rail were quite happy with this concept. They were given a free line effectively. I think British Coal, or National Coal Board as it might have been then, paid for it, and they had a free line. It was the more direct route to York anyway, and that avoided Selby, which was always a bit of a sort of a holding point. I think that old line is still exists to an extent, but it's not like a fast route nowadays, or even, you know, when it was built. So I mean, if we do eventually get a DBT in the game, then it'd be virtually possible. Mind you, we probably wouldn't have Mark 4 carriages, but we might be able to do sort of the 90 and the Mark 3 carriages. And for the time being, even if you stuck a HST power car on the back, you could probably do that free roam on East Coast Main Line between Peterborough and Doncaster on TSW. Yeah, let me know if you agree. What's your favourite livery for the 91s? I mean, I love the original Intercity Swallow livery, and if you ever get the chance to watch it's on YouTube now, I think, but watch that Channel 4 Equinox video, Running to Time, and it's quite fascinating, the development of the 91. And they end the film right at the end with some lovely shots of the very first completed one at Crewe. And of course nowadays the 90 and the 91 would still feel like modern traction for me from the sort of the late 80s are old relics now. Okay, that was a bit of bumpy track work, but we're going to come off the track. So I'm not 100% sure at what point. I mean, obviously Doncaster is in Yorkshire, I think officially South Yorkshire, and then of course Leeds is West Yorkshire, but I'm not 100% sure exactly at what point we cross the border. I think it's Newark, still Lincolnshire, isn't it? And then or is Newark Nottinghamshire? And then at some point we've got to cross the border to go into Yorkshire, which is a massive county. That's why it's kind of split up into all these little sections, really, with sort of South Yorkshire, East Yorkshire, North Yorkshire, West Yorkshire. But you don't tend to categorise the counties quite as much as that in other parts of the country, but it's absolutely massive, and each area is very, very different. East Yorkshire's kind of more like Hull, and you know, where you start talking about Humberside. West Yorkshire's kind of Leeds, and then South Yorkshire's sort of Sheffield, Barnsley. North Yorkshire is like York, Scarborough, Bridlington, places like that. But I do love any service that is kind of end to end, and it, you know, gives me great satisfaction the fact that we've picked this up from London King's Cross and we're going right the way through to the end of its journey at Leeds. And I mean, there are York to King's Cross services that are kind of doable, but I mean, you can obviously do an end to end King's Cross to Edinburgh as well, but that's kind of pushing the boat out a little bit, because that's sort of 4 hours or more. I think that's kind of one of those where you're going to keep saving as well, because you're going to be thinking, can the game withstand getting us all the way to Edinburgh? You'd be absolutely mad, wouldn't you, if you kind of didn't save it and then you were a couple of miles away from Edinburgh and then the game dumped on you. How many level crossings there are between King's Cross and Doncaster? I mean, I wonder whether, because this, I think the creative rails route that they brought out between Peterborough and York, I think they basically brought out the non-electrified version first of all, and then they brought out the electrified version later. So I don't know really whether they did anything other than put the catenary in. So I don't know whether all these crossings actually exist either at the time it was built or however many of them still stand now. So it's a good excuse to keep sounding the horn for all these crossings anyway, and you're constantly seeing these whistle boards. I always think that's quite a quaint expression as well, because it's a horn really, you would describe it as now, but of course you know, on steam trains it was whistle, and they still use the W signal to indicate it, like you've got here. Good to see the level crossing gates are closed as well. We're less than 10 miles away from Doncaster now. So yeah, we'll be then going up the stretch of the line then across to Leeds. I saw the again advance notice of the neutral section. So I think I'm right in saying Retford. Is this Retford coming up? That's certainly before Doncaster, isn't it? I think as well I remember a Microsoft Train Simulator before we got all the various bits with European barb, because they eventually did it all the way to York and Leeds, but I remember there was a time when I remember downloading a version of King's Cross to Leeds where basically most of the scenery wasn't filled in, and I don't think it was ever actually fully populated, that freeware version. Because that's the killer in terms of route building, and if any of you out there have ever tried it, it's like laying the track's one thing, and you lay miles and miles and miles of track, and even people manage to put the gradients in effectively, but laying the scenery is sort of months and months and months of, if not years of hard work, doing it to a good standard anyway. Not all these are level crossings, some of them are just footpaths, but of course very important to sound the horn for oncoming people crossing the line, because you're obviously authorised to do that, whereas with a level crossing at least the gates or the barriers would be closed, then there's kind of nothing stopping you, so trains can creep up on you very, very quickly. That one was a barrier. I've got a suspicion one of the barriers might have been just coming down there. We might have beaten it to it a little bit. Of course, that would never happen in real life. They actually go down probably a good 5 minutes before. Did we go through Retford and I never noticed? Entirely possible. Must be because we're less than 4 miles away from Doncaster now. I think that's the old. You get in this big that big freight yard that's a little bit grown over on the left. I think that would be thronged with freight services back in the day. But of course, with Doncaster Works as well, which is was a big thing in days gone by. Doncaster still very much feels like a significant railway town. Yeah, that's the big yard on the left-hand side. Yeah, we're starting to get some brakes on because we're getting a double yellow. Oh, we've got some coal MGR hopper wagons on the right there. Be able to ride that on the Crewe Preston route. So the idea is you go from pit to power station, from colliery to power station without actually stopping. You unload and load up. Yeah, so single yellow is there. So we're still a bit of distance away from the next signal, so probably going a bit cautiously here. Better to be safe than sorry. I mean, you don't quite get a end of scenario and end of game if you go through a red signal, but the problem is you could derail if the points are set for you. That's the issue, and then that would be again incredibly frustrating, having driven across most of England. I think, unless my eyes are deceiving me, I think I can see. Ah, that's good. Yeah, we've got the feather, so we're all right. And we are pathed into Doncaster platform 4. It's a nice run up the East Coast main line so far. And again, good use of catenary there. Ah, you've got the line coming in from Sheffield on the that we've just come in from the left as well. There is a Train Sim Classic route. I think it's TPE South from by Jake Fuller, I think it was, who basically did Cleethorpes to Sheffield, but there's a lot of scenery missing on the bit between here and Cleethorpes, but there's quite a bit of scenery in between, so it'd be all right for a cross-country service that would fill in one of the gaps. We don't have the proper line between Sheffield and Leeds, which I think goes via Moorthorpe. Again, you can see the big expanse that was Doncaster Works over there. You got some Mark 1 Royal Mail stock as well. We'll set ourselves down to up to 40 for the time being, which should take us on to the Leeds line. I think the Mark 4 carriages, if I remember rightly, were built by Met Camel, but I think the bogies were Swiss. They had that like tinny sound, and the Pendolino's a bit like that as well. Now we've got a 321 waiting for clearance in towards Doncaster on a stopping service. Right, now we can get up to 70. It's not the fastest section in the world between Doncaster and Leeds. So Wakefield Westgate is our next stop, which I believe is the place where Jane McDonald comes from. It's about the only famous person I can associate with Wakefield. They've got a rugby team as well, haven't they? But rugby league, obviously, in this part of the world. Right, now we're up to 100, so I suppose we are reasonably fast. And bear in mind we can only go up to 110 anyway. But I was delighted when this section of the line came out, because again it was missing for ages, so to be able to get into Leeds was quite exciting. So that's Bentley, the first station, then it's Adwick, South Elmsall, Fitzwilliam, Sandal and Agbrigg, Wakefield Westgate, Outwood and Leeds. But of course we are only stopping at Wakefield Westgate. And just to shout out as well, whilst we're talking about Leeds, that I mean I kind of did a couple of videos. It's only been one video actually, but I did a video before around about Christmas on Max Trax's new route, which kind of takes in Bradford, Keighley, and places out from Leeds as well. Adds another dimension to Leeds station. That's a little bit of a network and a route, and there's some really good custom build models on there as well. Very, very atmospheric for the region that it's set. But this is the thing about TSW, and again, I'm thinking way out into the future. I mean, we don't know any plans at the moment officially of even King's Cross to Peterborough, but it's kind of even ending it at Doncaster's kind of a little bit. Sort of not an exact ending either there. You feel as though it's got to go north of Doncaster as well. You know, York would be a reasonable endpoint, and Leeds, and having that triangle will be quite nice as well. I mean, I know some of the foliage looks a bit naff when you look at it close up, but other than that, it still looks pretty reasonable. I mean, this is an old kind of upgraded route now, but oh, by the way, I have put in the upgraded track as well. There is I've got the Armstrong Powerhouse track enhancement pack installed, but also downloaded, I think that was from ATS as well, a enhancement pack where it replaces the track texture. So some people might prefer the ones that came from Armstrong Powerhouse, but I think I just personally just like the look of this. Just adds another something to these track textures as well. And I'm forever grateful for the fact that this particular scenario as well, created with dry weather as well, because I kind of get a bit fed up with scenarios where it starts off in sunshine and ends up pouring with rain. It's quite nice to do it in clear, dry weather throughout. And I know not always realistic for the UK, but it's I just like seeing things at their brightest, freshest and cleanest. So still very much kind of feels like we're in the middle of open countryside, even though once you get towards Westgate, once you get towards Wakefield, that you're kind of not far off from Leeds at that point. Yeah, we just need, for that Leeds Lines route, we just need an extension to Sheffield really, and that's kind of one of the missing sections for genuine cross-country services. We've got pretty much everything else. As I say, you can cheat a little bit. You can do sort of Leeds to Doncaster and then take in Doncaster to Sheffield with that TPE South route. I presume that's still downloadable somewhere. And I was joking the other day about with the Armstrong Powerhouse bringing in out an enhancement pack for the Voyager. Well, maybe the it's on for the full Dundee to Penzance service. We can't quite do Aberdeen to Penzance because there is a route that covers Montrose to Dundee, and in theory the track's laid all the way up to Aberdeen, but there's no scenery, I think, in the bulk of the bit between Aberdeen and Montrose. I travelled finally in a Leeds to King's Cross service last year on a 91. I've been meaning to do it for a while. The last time I booked it, and a Zoomer turned up, but last year it finally got to do the 91, so I quite enjoyed that. The sitting in first class, you couldn't be more comfortable really, and the LNER meal service pretty decent as well. Can't remember what I ate, but it was pretty good. I'm guessing that's kind of like a kit bashed bridge, but it still wasn't bad though if it was. I think back in the day, when the Mark IVs were built, there was kind of comfort in mind with the seats, and seems to be a factor that's forgotten about with some of the modern trains. Not quite as not the same degree of comfort. I'm not totally averse to the Azumas, but obviously a little bit of a standardised train built across the country. Wonder if the signalling will hold up properly into Leeds. That's the one remaining big question. I hope so. I mean, I think a long time ago, when I first started doing the live streams, which you know, is well over a year ago now, but you know, we're probably talking about something like, I don't know, maybe October, November 2024 maybe. I think I did a running a 91 from King's Cross to Leeds, but I split it over the 2 weeks. I had a bit of a computer problem at the time, so I think the second part from Peterborough to Leeds ended up being quite a good few weeks later. Right, so we are starting to get some notable speed restrictions coming in, and actually, I mean, we've got 90, but we've got to think about getting down to 50 here. Might even have to take it into full service, but remember, don't go any further. Don't think we got any AWS advance warning of the 50, which there would be in real life, wouldn't there? Let's be honest, with that change from 90 to 50. You kind of go over a smallish viaduct to get into Wakefield Westgate, which is what we're doing here. Really thought to do the train announcements, but we should be. Ladies and gentlemen, we shall be arriving into Wakefield Westgate. Wakefield Westgate, our next stop. If you're leaving us here, please remember to take all your personal belongings with you. Thank you very much for travelling with GNER today. Yeah, you kind of started to take on, having gone through open countryside between Doncaster and Wakefield, you're starting to notice a lot more by way of buildings in the background now. And in theory there is a through middle line, which I've never taken at this point, because I think every service I've ever done has stopped at Wakefield Westgate. There's another Wakefield as well, isn't there? That's why it's called Wakefield Westgate. I think there was a plan by Tom and the OTS team to bring, was it Railways of Yorkshire? I think that included the other Wakefield station. But I think it's such a big project. I think they'd like to get it done eventually, but it's probably fitting it in with all the other commitments. Of course, they work for Just Trains. Yeah, so of course the 91 on the rear. Which one have we got here? The Samaritans 91-109. Must be summer, judging by the wear of the passengers. That's the buffet car, isn't it? So they've got green, but the chances are we're probably... Oh no, we're still haven't been... Still waiting for passengers to be offloaded at Wakefield Westgate. I can't imagine there's too many people getting on for the final step into Leeds. It's just going now, that 91. Very distinctive sounds of the motors. We must have made up time, have we, this time? So, ironically, yeah, we finally got a tick. The first station we were on time at Wakefield. Yeah, somehow I don't think that track on the left is used very much. So the final stretch then, the last few minutes of the journey into Leeds. We're coming in on platform 8. Right, now we're good for 75 miles an hour. Yeah, well actually we've got 85 coming up, so I have a suspicion, and again as a driver you'd know that instantly, but I've got a suspicion that by selecting 85 we're not going to get to 85 before the 0.63 of a mile before the mark comes in. That's me hunch anyway. We'll see if that proves to be right or not. So if you've made it through this far and you've watched the whole video, then congratulations, and I've enjoyed riding it, and I hope you've not objected too much to me waffling on along the way. There we are, yeah, so there's the 85, so we're easily going to be well within that. Of course, the back of the train has to be clear of the marker before we get the permission to go up to 85. That's quite important. Of course, the trains are long things. So there's only one station, I think, outward between Wakefield, Westgate and Leeds, and that's this that's coming up. And I was mentioning about travelling from Leeds to King's Cross last year, and I actually stopped at there's a travel lodge which be on the left, I think, as we come in. I have to have a think about that actually, but it's certainly overlooking the station anyway, and I haven't got round to actually putting the video together, but there's some good stuff actually. Got a really good view from the travel lodge looking into the heart of the station. There's quite a few travel lodges as well about in the country that overlook the railway line, overlook stations, so great if you kind of wanted to do that sort of stuff. And I remember asking them as I checked in, you know, I was intrigued to know, was it just kind of geekish me that only asked for rooms overlooking the line, and they kind of said no, you know, it's not as uncommon as you might think. But I hope it whets your appetite in terms of the TSW Class 90 coming out. And I know many of you have been fed up with the just being able to drive the 66. I know you can drive the 37 or the 47 on sort of older freight workings, but in terms of more modern day stock, we've been waiting for the 90, and of course we also have the Class 70 coming out as well, so that will add some value too. There's a stopping service between Leeds and Doncaster. And it'd be interesting to kind of give it a run as opposed, well, in comparison with the Train Sim Classic one, which is quite old now, but also, you know, contrasting that with the preview streams. Nothing quite like getting your own hands on it and feeling what that's like. So I think we'll fairly soon notice the speed limits coming down for the approach into Leeds itself. I don't know whether we're coming in at a terminus platform or not. Hopefully so. Again, maybe a little bit of OCD-ness, but it's quite satisfying to bring your journey into the buffer stops. You know, it's sort of buffer stop to buffer stop, and there's a feeling of completeness about the whole thing. Otherwise, it feels slightly futile. There we are. So we've got the 60 advance warning. I mean, to be honest, I'm braking slightly prematurely for that because it's still 0.7 of a mile away. Ironic that we've got that one and we didn't get the one from 90 to 50, but not the end of the world. You might get a bit more stuttery as Leeds itself loads in, but you can see plenty of buildings going on in the background. Of course, we've got Leeds in Trenton World, but in Northern Transpennine, but as it was pre-electrification, sort of 1980s style, so very different to both the station and the area, how it is now. And besides, that was a very early TSW route as well. Again, would be I think we'd be quite happy to see an upgrade on that, a remaster. In those neutral sections must be a real test for the driver, because you could be coming into a red signal there, because of course if you happen to stop on the section where the neutral section is, and that's where your pantograph is, then you're not going to get any power, and the only friend to you then is if you happen to be on a hill and you can actually roll. Yeah, some of that stuff around there, the hills, could do with tidying up slightly. So we're not quite cleared into the platforms just yet. Again, I don't know whether a little bit of prompting might help. Try and keep it below 15 for the approach to the signal, because I don't want to trigger the TPWS this late into the journey. The catenary there looks quite nice. It looks quite representative of the catenary that's correct for the area. Ah, denied, it says. We are waiting. There we are. So we are waiting for something to happen. We've got a 158. Of course, they used to be used on Transpennine services. but also on West Yorkshire services as well. That's a West Yorkshire one actually, isn't it? The old maroon livery that existed at the time. Because I'm that close to the signal that I won't actually be able to see it from the cab here. That's supposed to be me. So, have we got something coming in on the left? Judging by we got a. That's the old Transpennine one. There's a video 125 with a 158 in those colours. But yeah, I quite like this. It's even though it's been a long journey, it wouldn't be untypical or unusual to find you being held outside the station. So it feels quite realistic. Hopefully we won't be kept waiting forever. There's the canal below. We've got green. Right, okay. Yeah, you get your skates on now. We are cleared into the platform. So like I was saying at the start, I think certainly not all drivers use the speed control, but it's quite nice to be given the opportunity. Nice, a bit of traffic coming in as well this late into the journey as well, so very nicely created scenario. I think it was with the pack, as I recall, because I certainly couldn't find it as a standalone scenario. And here we have it, Journey's End at Leeds itself. Leeds it's Leeds City, isn't it? Officially known as. And this is set in May, the end of May 2000. This is Tuesday, the 30th of May, I think, the year 2000. It might even have been platform 8 that I started out from on my journey. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, it's not one of the terminus platforms, but I'm not going to be too obsessed or annoyed about that. I'll take it up towards the red signal. Yeah, I think the as we're coming in, I'm trying to get me bearings. I think the Travel Lodge was sort of on the rightish. It's probably where that you've got that brownish building on the right, brown and cream, and then I think it's that one in front of that. Didn't mean to press emergency, but it matters not at this stage anyway. Yeah, so Leeds itself nicely built. They're no mean feat, these custom builds. Take plenty of work. Great run, driver. That's you done for today. Welcome to Yorkshire. Indeed we are. This is Leeds. This set will form the 1705 back to the cross, because it says incomplete just simply because a couple of the stops were slightly on the late side. So again, if you've bared with us for the whole journey, then well done. Thank you very much for watching. Much appreciated. Really enjoyed that, and hopefully that'll give you a taster for the Class 90 coming out for TSW as well. I'm sure you've all enjoyed seeing the preview streams on that. So we'll give this a run on Train Sim World 6 on the Monday if you're watching the premiere. Join us on Sunday if you possibly can for our usual live stream at 5 p.m. for 4 hours of Train Sun in World 6. And just last time to say really, but if you haven't already liked and subscribed to the channel, I'd be tremendously appreciated if you consider doing it, because your support is absolutely massively valuably appreciated. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, from Powerflower Trains and Planes, it is for now goodbye.